I think they are doing, and by they, I mean
Dr. Evil.
Well, no, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. By they, I mean, and it's the media, it's the politicized Department of Justice. They are doing the timing of all of these charges against Trump is not an accident. The fact that they want to hold multiple court hearings for these charges the day before Super Tuesday, which is a major turning point in any candidate's election. They want to kick off these court hearings the day before Super Tuesday. It's not an accident. This is all happening right now.
It's Banana Republic stuff.
It really is. These terrible things that are happening in our country are happening because we have people in power who care more about themselves and their power than they do about the people, this country, our Constitution, our democracy. They are setting this incredibly dangerous precedent that now, much like many banana republics in the world, whoever's in power has the ability to politicize and weaponize that power to go after their political opponent. The consequences and implications of what is actually happening and what so many of the Democrat elite are justifying in the name of protecting democracy is actually destroying it.
You guys got some power.
Trump gets indicted.
Right?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just, the whole thing is just so.
So how much do we take?
I mean,
right?
what do we do? What can be done?
Mm-hmm.
What can be done? You know, I mean, I don't know at this point.
Well, I mean, it does. It starts with us. It starts with us as Americans taking our own responsibility seriously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the Constitution and Bill of Rights, it talks about our government exists with the consent of the governed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's us.
There
When
is
it says
more
we
of
the
us,
people, that's us.
But these guys, yeah.
Thank you, Tulsi Gabbard. See, Tulsi Gabbard gets it. We the people. The government has to be accountable to us. That's why if the public, if you people do not force Tyler Ray to answer, do not force the courts in North Carolina to answer this action, they're not being held accountable. And see, you gotta hold accountable corrupt clerks of court, corrupt judicial officers, because when you don't hold those people accountable, it leads, it's kind of like a gateway corruption in government. It leads to real corruption, like criminal presidential candidates. See? That's why you gotta stop it at these lower levels. And if they don't have to answer us, but we have to answer them, if they can pull us into court on every single little allegation, and yet we can't make an accusation and have them answer, that is a master-slave relationship. You're not a free citizen, you are a slave. This is why slaves have never had the right to open up court, access the record of court, place facts upon the record, move for a true and lawful judgment, because slaves have never had rights. It's just that simple. And here at Just Conspiracy, I maintain that we can bring heaven down to earth if everybody just understands and knows the fundamental basics of law, and then we have to see to uphold them. And everybody's got this law thing backwards. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. Because allegedly, he committed a crime. Allegedly, Trump got indicted a bunch of times. Allegedly. What is this word allegedly? Because I don't know which Constitution you've been reading, but in the Constitutions I've read, I got the right to have an accusation before I answer in court. And let's see what this word accusation means. Accusation, the act of charging with a crime or offense, the act of accusing of any wrong or injustice, the charge of an offense or crime, or the declaration containing the charge. Accuse, to charge with or declare to have committed a crime, either by plaints or complaints, information, indictment, or impeachment. To charge with an offense against the laws, judicially or by a public process. As to accuse one of high crimes and misdemeanors. Accuser, one who accuses or blames. An officer who prefers an accusation against another for some offense in the name of the government before a tribunal that has cognizance of the offense. See, an accusation is when you actually get accused of a crime by an accuser, right? Kind of makes sense. I think we all instinctually know that one, but it's not an allegation, right? And that's the word that they're always using. These very, very serious allegations against them. These very serious allegations against Trump. Well, let's see what allegation means, because it's not the same word. Allege. To declare, to affirm, to assert, to pronounce with positiveness, as to allege a fact. To produce as an argument, plea, or excuse, to cite or quote, as to allege the authority of a judge. Alleger, one who affirms or declares. Allegation, affirmation, positive, assertion, or declaration. That which is affirmed or asserted, that which is offered as a plea, excuse, or justification. In ecclesiastical courts, a formal complaint or declaration of charges. Allege, to plea or excuse, like excusing all of the governmental actions. To cite, to quote. See, this is why they're always citing and quoting their codes, their codifications, because they ain't got no law to produce for you. If they had law to produce for you, you would have an accuser when you go to court, because that's what law requires. And you see, allege is the root word of allegiance or allegory. A figurative sentence or discourse in which the principal subject is described by another subject resembling it in its properties and circumstances. The principal subject is thus kept out of view, and we are left to collect the intentions of the writer or speaker by the resemblance of the secondary to the primary subject. The distinction in Scripture between a parable and an allegory is said to be that a parable is a supposed history and an allegory a figurative description of real facts. An allegory is called a continued metaphor. And that's exactly what I talk about all the time, because remember, representation of persons is a fiction in the law. They separate the subject from the reality, and then they can just author whatever they wish to with their authority. That's why I gotta author it. Why? Because we gave them that power and they abused it. They abused it severely. And see, we all grew up in America, and in America, we learned somewhere in grade school that when allegations are made, because it's an ecclesiastical declaration of an ecclesiastical charge. See, those don't have trials. They have inquisitions. So what's an inquisition? Inquisition. Inquiry, examination, a searching or search. Judicial inquiry, official examination, inquest. The justices in had it formally in charge to make inquisition concerning them by a jury of the county. Examination, discussion. In some Catholic countries, a court or tribunal established for the examination and punishment of heretics. This court was established by the 12th century Father Dominic, who was charged by Pope Innocent III with orders to excite Catholic princes and people to extirpate heretics. And justices in formally charged by juries in counties. Probably grand juries, to be in fact. But what's this Air, pronounced I-R-E, air. In England, the justices in were itinerant judges who rode the circuit to hold courts in the different counties. a court of itinerant justices. And what's an itinerant justice? What does itinerant mean? Itinerant, one who travels from place to place, particularly a preacher. Huh, that applies to preachers? Really, you don't say. See, because that's what I've always been saying, is that this is all spiritual. This is all spiritual in nature. And because it's spiritual in nature, and now that we've established that fact, let's talk about some spiritual principles. It's called the 7 hermetic principles. That's what this video is really about. I just had to get you to the point to understanding that this is all a spiritual test. This is what it's all about. It's all about your mind, your body, and your soul. And the first principle in the hermetic principles is that of mind, mentalism. Because we cannot see something, we cannot produce something, we cannot create something in society unless we envision it first. Unless we imagine it first. The mind here on earth has always been governed by governmental power, governing the mental power of the mind, or spiritual power, religions, churches, temples. This is why every single culture, every single society, the government and the temple grew up right next to each other. They separated when Rome fell. That's when the Catholic Church separated from the secular government that was controlling everything. All these other little secular governments started popping up around Europe. And see, government and religion, this is why they've always kind of been at odds with each other. And the reason why the government, the secular courts, are taking over the jurisdiction that the ecclesiastical courts used to have and hold is because when the ecclesiastical courts had and held them, they were just as corrupt. Power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. The next principle is that of correspondence. And correspondence is described as above, so below. We've all heard that. As within, so without. Everybody who goes to the federal government comes from a county and a state somewhere in the United States. And so when you have corruption at the lowest levels of our government, when you have corruption at the lowest levels of our society, in every single county, in every single state, the people who go up to the federal government are more likely to be corrupt because they came from a place that was inherently corrupt already. Whereas if we can minimize corruption locally, on the local level, then we will minimize corruption on the highest level. And let me tell you something. There is no getting rid of corruption. That's an idea as fanciful as a utopia. But we can at least minimize it and make sure that individual rights are upheld. That's what this is all about. The next principle is that of vibration. The universe is always moving, is always vibrant. And when you do not have a very vibrant energy of justice, when justice is dormant, it means that injustice is vibrant and running through society. And that's what's going on right now. It is all about the levels of justice or injustice that we will allow to be accepted in our mind that decide how vibrant or dormant this vibration is. The next principle is the principle of polarity. In the context of law, let's just look at this. See, lawful would be one pole and legal would be another pole. And everybody in our society, they're like, is it legal or illegal? When what they really should be asking, is it lawful or unlawful? Because constructive fraud is legal fraud, but there's no such thing as lawful fraud. And I maintain here that legal fraud is running rampant in our society, and it's all because people don't really know and understand the law. Another polarity in law would be that of individual rights versus the rights of the whole, or communistic rights. And we've always found that rights of the whole never works out well in a society. And the final polarity would be that of natural law, the law that I talk about, versus positive law, positivism. The fact that a legislature can basically enslave you because they wrote it down. This is the law being decided right now, and you're the jury. You're the jury, and if you don't allow your verdict to be heard, if you do not express your verdict, then your verdict is against this law. Your verdict is against natural law. The next principle is that of rhythm. It's the ebb and flow. And we see this in law with our rights. Throughout all of history, tyrants have taken away rights. People have fought to get them back. Tyrants have taken them away again. Let me give you some examples. Magna Carta. King John was so tyrannical, all the barons got together, put a sword to his throat and said, sign this or we'll run you through. He ended up going back on that contract, so they laid siege to his castle until he died from dysentery. King Charles I, 1649. He was so tyrannical that Parliament got together, held a trial for him, and cut off his head. Yeah. About 120 years after that, the King of England was so tyrannical upon the colonists that they got together and wrote a document, maybe you heard of it, it's called the Declaration of Independence, where it cites natural law, the law of nature and nature's God. The next principle is the principle of gender. The principle of gender. The principle of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. Because male and female relate to the sex of animals. Masculine relates to man qualities and feminine relates to female qualities. So if you call yourself a male or a female, you're saying you're an animal, not a man or a woman. Big difference. The last principle is cause and effect. A couple of years ago, I was speaking at a Republican meeting, and they were affected by the books that are going in to their children's school, like grade age children. We all know the books. And they're irate. They're like, what do we do about this? We got to have some type of action. But see, a reaction is not an action. An action is a cause. And a reaction is an effect. And an effect can never affect another effect. Just the way it works. Just the way the laws work. And this is why it's so important to have your cause of action, your cause, make the effect of an answer instead of a non-answer. That's why it's so important that the public makes Tyler Ray answer, makes their government officers answer them. Because if you don't make them answer you, again, you are in a master-slave relationship, and it's never going to change. It's never going to change if they don't have to answer you in a court of law. Alright, now that we know some of these basic principles of law, let's go over some of the applications. Because right now, here's the way it works. You get pulled over by an alleger, and the alleger offers you a ticket to pay. And then they go put it down in a ledger, right? And of course, you're answerable to allegations when you have sworn allegiance to uphold them. Otherwise, you're just an allegory. You're just a fiction of the law, and fictions, again, have no rights. And they're doing this to people at the same time where actual accusers like Valerie Owenby, actual accusers like Jeffrey Epstein's injured parties that he created, aggrieved women that he created, because I refuse to call them victims. And here's why. This is the definition of a victim. Victim. A living being sacrificed to some deity, or in the performance of a religious rite. Usually some beast slain in sacrifice. But human beings have been slain by some nations for the purpose of appeasing the wrath or conciliating the favor of some deity. You see, the state has taken away your right to be the accuser, to lay accusation, to present indictments in an open court of law, and they have traded it for allegations. The reason why Jeffrey Epstein's aggrieved women did not get any type of justice is because they were denied from walking into a court of law and putting their verified testimony, their verified facts upon the record of a court. And they were denied this because of administrative processes like plea deals, sweetheart plea deals to be, in fact. And this is the type of system your government produces. They say they do it by your consent, which means they use your energy to impose this type of injustice on everybody. And unless you tell them that they can't do it, it's 100% lawful. Trust me. I guarantee it. And this is why we are just conspiracy. Because we just wish to conspire, bring heaven down to earth. And if you let these fools run in the place, get away with this animal farm they got created, then you deserve the hell that you're going to get. Otherwise, stand with us, talk about rights, share this, invite other people to come and join us. We got a Telegram talk show every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. The link is in the description. Call the news, call the media, tell them, hey, make the courts answer. These are our public officials. They are answerable to us. You're the media. Expose it. One world, love, and peace.
We spoke with Mr. Ray regarding this estate, and he's going to transfer it to a different county. He cannot hear any hearings on it because of a conflict of interest. And he's talking to the surrounding counties to see which one he's going to be able to transfer it to. But we won't be doing anything further on the file here. It will be transferred out of county.
So, Tyler Ray is the clerk of court,
That's correct.
and so he cannot, you're saying that he cannot give me a letter of testamentary or a letter of administration because there's a conflict of interest.
He can't hear any matters in the case because there's a conflict. He represented your mother in the divorce
And
years
in the
ago
trust. Yeah,
when he was in private practice. So therefore, he cannot hear any matters in this estate at all.
yeah, he also
So
represented
that's why
her for the trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why he can't hear it. So that's why it's being transferred out of county.